Hi, welcome to the Warm Hug Ear Wrap tutorial. We're gonna jump in with the remainder of yarn that I use for my Warm Hug wrap. If you want to watch the tutorial for how to make the Warm Hug wrap, I'm gonna have it linked up here. So you can make that along with your headband ear wrap. It's gonna be so cozy, so comfy. You're gonna feel so warm. So the yarn that I'm using here is the same yarn that I used on that wrap. It is the Juniper Moon Farm. What is this? Cotton and Merino blend. Now, a note on this particular yarn that I'm using, it is a braided yarn. So I'm gonna try to show you the texture here. I don't know if it's gonna work. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but the structure of this yarn is braided, which means it is going to have a bit of stretch, especially since it's a wool blend. It's also blended with cotton, but the wool means that it's still going to have some stretch. So if you are going to use a yarn with some stretch, so if you are using yarn that stretches, there are just some considerations that you're going to have to take in as opposed to a yarn that isn't super stretchy, like maybe cotton. 100% cotton isn't going to be super stretchy. It's going to be quite not stiff, but it's gonna hold its shape. It's not going to stretch out too much. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our foundation. Let's go. I'm working with the same yarn that I used for my wrap project. That is the Juniper Moon Farm yarn. It is a cotton and merino blend, and I'm using a 5mm hook from Susan Bates. We're starting with a regular slip knot, and we are going to chain 3. After you've chained 3, we're going to make a row of chainless half double crochet foundation. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the very first chain that you made. That should be the 3rd chain from your hook. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through just one of those loops. That one loop that you pull through, that's gonna, think of that as like the chain of your foundation. Then yarn over and pull through all 3, and that is the half double crochet. You now technically have 2 stitches in your foundation. So let's make a 3rd. Yarn over and insert your hook into the base of the stitch that you just made. I'm pointing to it. You might have to finagle it in there. Yarn over, drop a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 3. You now have 3 stitches that you've made in your foundation. Let's do one more together. Yarn over, insert your hook into the base of the stitch that you just made. It should go through 2 posts. My finger's pointing to it right now. That's where you want to put your hook. Insert, yarn over, drop a loop, yarn over, pull through 1. Remember that first that you pull through is kind of like your chain, your foundational chain. Then yarn over, pull through 3. That's your half double crochet. You now have 4 stitches in your foundation. Great job. Now you just want to keep doing this until your foundation row has reached a length that you're happy with, and it should go all the way around your head with plenty of room to grow. Keep going, and I will show you how I measure mine in just a minute. Once you think your headband is the length that you want it, let's try it on. So you know that it's the length that you want it when it's going to cover your ears with a decent amount of stretch. Now this yarn is going to stretch a lot. Now, as I talked about before, this yarn is going to stretch a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and as I measure it around my head, I'm gonna pull on it. I'm gonna stretch on it. So if you know that your yarn is gonna stretch out a lot, then go ahead and measure it stretched. If your yarn isn't gonna stretch out a lot, then measure it unstretched. So right now, this is my yarn across my head unstretched, but if I pull it, this is where it is. We want a little bit of room for the knot that's gonna go up here, and it's gonna bring it all together, and that's gonna act as our seam. So you do want a little bit of allowance, not a lot, like that much, like much, that's like what, an inch, maybe, not even, on either side of allowance. Otherwise you'll be fine. Now my rule of thumb here is I usually err on the side of too big than too small, because I know that no matter what, the fibers will, like even if it's a cotton, it's gonna stretch. I usually err on the side of making my garments a little bit bare. I sometimes err on the side of making things like this a little bit bigger. One, because I know that this yarn in particular is going to stretch, this fiber is going to stretch a lot. The second reason is with this kind of construction, with this particular kind of wearable, I can just put some elastic in it after the fact and it'll snap right back into shape. Now that the length of your band is sufficient, we need to get started on our next row. So what you're going to do for the next row is you're going to chain 1 to finish up your foundation row, turn your work, and we're going to back loop slip stitch all the way down the row. And I want you to go ahead and put a back loop slip stitch into that very first stitch. Now if you're not sure where the back loop is, I'm going to show you. It's where I'm pointing my fingers. When you look above your work should read as a V. All of those stitches should be a V, or at least they're going to look like it. And that back loop of that V that's away from you, that's where you're going to put your hook in. So you're just going to insert your hook into the back post of that V, and you're going to yarn over, pull through as a slip stitch, and that's all. You're just going to keep repeating that back loop slip stitch all the way down for this row. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a nice little braid or V shape across your work. That's going to make it almost look knitted. It's also just a very nice texture to see in your work. All right, you're doing great. Keep working your back loop slip stitches all the way down the row, and I'll meet you at the end of the row to show you what to do next. All right, everyone, now that you're getting to the end of your row, the very last slip stitch isn't going to be a back loop stitch. Instead, you're going to slip stitch through the entire stitch. Now, that stitch that you're slip stitching into right there, that is part of your chain 3 that you started this piece with. So just do a regular slip stitch and you'll be fine. Once you've completed that slip stitch, you want to chain 2 and turn your work. This next row should feel familiar. We're just going to do a row of back loop half double crochets. Now I'm going to show you where exactly the back loop is. I'm pointing to it right now. And the chain 2 that you just did is not going to count as a half double crochet. I just find that it just kind of doesn't really provide enough volume in this make to where it looks like a regular stitch. So we're just going to go ahead and throw a back loop half double crochet in here. So you just insert your hook, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 3. And you're just going to keep doing the same thing down the row. Yarn over, insert your hook into the back loop, yarn over, draw up a loop, then yarn over and pull through all 3. Do this for the whole row and I'll see you at the end. Now we're at the end of our half double crochet row, and just like the end of our slip stitch row, I don't want you to do a back loop stitch in here. Instead, you're going to half double crochet through the whole stitch. Now, because you are going into a slip stitch, it's going to feel a little bit tight. It's fine, finagle it if you need to. It should give way with just a little bit of elbow grease, not a ton of elbow grease. From here on out, the pattern just repeats on itself. Next, you're going to do a row of back loop slip stitches and then another row of back loop half double crochets. And you're just going to keep alternating these rows until your headband gets to your desired width, something that's going to comfortably cover your ears and keep them warm. So just to get you started on the next row, remember it is a slip stitch row, so we're going to chain 1 and back loop slip stitch into the very first stitch and keep back loop slip stitching all the way down. Once your headband has reached its desired width, I will be back to show you how to sew it up into a cute little headband. Okay, we are almost done. Once you finish your last half double crochet, you need to secure your yarn and bind it off. How I do it is a little different and a little neurotic. I like to chain 2 actually and draw out my last chain 2. into a very long, or not very long, but usually kind of like a longer tail. For this project, you do need to cut yourself a longer tail, so go ahead and pull that tail out a little bit, like maybe 5 to 6 inches. It doesn't need to be too long because you're going to use that tail to sew up your headband. Yes, I know I pulled out way more than 6 inches. Do as I say, not as I do. All right, give your tail a little snip and we are ready to discard the rest of our yarn. You don't need to discard as in throw it away. Just get it out of your workspace area so that you have a clean workspace. Snip, snip, here we go. All right, I have my tapestry needle ready to go. I'm gonna fold a piece of my yarn in half and put it through the eye of my needle. That's a really easy way to get like a thicker, chunkier yarn through your tapestry needle. Next, you need to pause and just take a look at your piece and make sure it's set up the way that it needs to be. You want to make sure that you have your right side facing up and your wrong side facing down. This means that the side of your headband that you want facing outward and that people can see and that you can see is facing up you on the table, and the side of the work that will be against your actual head and your ears is face down on the table. To make the cutesy little knot on our headband, we're going to pizza fold the two sides or the two ends of the headband, and then we're going to merge them together in sort of an envelope fold like so. Then you're going to take your tapestry needle and the tail of your yarn that you are using to sew these two ends together, and you are going to carefully sew these sides together. Just make sure that you get the very edge of your work, the very edge of those stitches together in that needle. It doesn't have to be clean, it doesn't have to be perfect, because this seam is going to be hidden, it's not going to be exposed. So if you're like me and you don't know anything about sewing, or you know enough to know that you don't know enough, this is perfect for you to just get a needle in your hands and practice a little bit of seaming and sewing. Once you've got all of your seams done, you're going to just flip or rotate your work around. Just take a look at the knot, check and make sure that you're happy with it before you cut off your yarn. I can see here that I accidentally left a little corner of my piece out of the knot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this back wrong side out, and I am just going to take my needle. I'm going to grab that one little piece that I want tucked into the knot, and I'm going to carefully just sew that back in the way that I want to. Luckily, if you use a fuzzier yarn like this, little mistakes like this can be very, very forgiving. Once you're happy with how the knot is secured, then you're just going to want to take both ends of your yarn, tie them in a knot, 2 knots, whatever feels most secure, whatever method you like to secure your ends. And all that's left to do is to weave in the ends and trim off any excess yarn that you don't need. Now, I actually use a latch hook when I sew in my ends. I have a really small one and a larger latch hook to use for this, and all I do is I take the latch hook and I weave it through where I want my end to be woven into, and I just kind of shimmy it up the way to the yarn or to the tail that I need to weave in. I make sure it's latched onto the hook, and I just pull it through until it feels secure. Sometimes it goes all the way, sometimes it doesn't. This is just how I like to secure and weave in my ends. If you have another method that works for you, you do you, but I tend to take the path of least resistance on these things, so latch hook it is. It also really speeds up the process, and I just cannot be bothered to work with the tapestry hook that much. All right, once you've woven in both of your ends, your headband is complete and it's time to put it on, enjoy it, and be warm and cozy. Let's turn it out so that it's the right side out and take a look. How cute is that? All right, now mine looks a little bit small because I got a small head and this yarn is very, very stretchy, and I know that it's going to stretch out quite a bit. Where I live, it stays quite warm. Usually it doesn't get very cold, but we are expecting an ice storm, and I realize, oh man, I have nothing to keep myself warm while it's gonna be so, so cold. So like, thank goodness I can make my own clothes to stay warm, and now you can too. So stay safe in the ice storm, happy crocheting, have fun, and go play in the snow if you get snow instead of ice. Bye!